Happy Sabbath. Thank you so much. I did hear from the pastor that indeed you wanted me to come back after I gave the first talk about choice. I appreciate that. I am not a trained preacher or even a lay preacher. I'm actually just a professor over at School of Medicine at Carbondale. I do have some background in health working with the medical students. I have a PhD, though not an MD, so I do research. And I find it interesting that I'm going to get to talk to you after such a rousing special music about rest. So we will talk about rest. This is from the Creation Life series. This is what Pastor Negri has asked me to talk to you about. You can see there that it's an acronym for a number of topics that are very similar indeed to the SDL health principles, for which the acronym is New Start. In both cases, you see that rest is something that is recommended. They're very, very similar. This particular message comes from the Adventist. It's a group of Adventist health professionals who have been around for quite a while. They say our principles for caring for the whole person started more than 150 years ago with the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We continue to help the people in our care create a life of whole health by healing their bodies, strengthening their minds, and lifting their spirits. So what we're going to do today is talk about some of the message that they have put together. I have also included some things that I found interesting. I am a scientist by training, and I love science. I love it because it's my opportunity to study God's world. That's my approach to science. It is God's creation, and we're learning everything we can about it. And the more I learn, the closer I feel to God. That's one of the ways that I worship God, by studying His world. And so what I want to tell you is some of the things that God has revealed to scientists. So I've added some of the works from some of the well-known health groups and people who are specialists in sleep and rest. So 1 Corinthians tells us, and I'm going to have to, I think I'm getting blind here. I'm actually going to have to pull up my notes because I can't read that from here. I apologize. I was going to not do that. But in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, we're told why it is why it is necessary for us to keep up with our health. We're told by Paul, do you not know your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? Who is it in you whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. What price was that? Christ Jesus' life. He came and He died for us. That was the price. Therefore, honor God. And one way we can honor God is to honor God with our bodies. We keep ourselves healthy. We're able to understand God's message to us better and to implement His work much better. All right, Lester did a beautiful job reading to us, and I'm going to just re-emphasize it. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, we're told in Genesis, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended His work which He had made, and He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had made. The God of glory, the God of all, rested. Did He need this rest? No. He is his incessant energy. But He rested as an example for us. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it He had rested from all His work which He had created and made. In Exodus, we're reminded about this day. When God gave the 10 Commandments to Moses, we were told, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So, as with all things, rest was created by God, and it was given to us, a gift at creation. The Advent group, the Advent Health people tells us that rest is the restoration of your body, your mind, and spirit. Your best rest includes a good night's sleep and making time to relax. They tell us daily, weekly with the Sabbath, and yearly. They recommend a vacation. So the first what they recommend is that we obtain spiritual rest, right? That is where all rest comes. It comes from God. And we can do this by making a relationship with God and making it a priority. We pray and can ask God for guidance and wisdom. We're told in Matthew by Jesus, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So Jesus, who was human on this planet, understood the need for rest. There were many times that he worked and toiled to the point of exhaustion, and he went to God for rest. As an example for us, that's what we can do when we've done his work to the point that we're exhausted. We go to God for our rest. I love this picture right here. Isn't that just so restful? The only thing to me that's wrong with this picture is that it's raining. What should be outside that window? Snow. Exactly. To me, that would be most restful if there were snow outside that glorious picture there. We're told by the Advent Health Group that sleep is vital to health and should be considered as essential to a healthy lifestyle as exercise and nutrition. How many of us work, and we neglect to get enough rest? I'm as guilty as the next. I forget that we're actually commanded to rest, not only on the seventh day, but we need it daily. 7 to 8 hours is generally recommended for adults. 30 to 40% of the people, however, sleep less than 6 hours per night. How many of us fall into that category? Quite a few of us, I'm sure. I sometimes do. If you have trouble, what you can do is pray to God and ask for help sleeping. You can also ask for God's guidance, and maybe God would guide you to a physician who could help you sleep, give you some information to help you sleep better, maybe give you some medication if that's what your physician deems necessary. What about children? The National Sleep Foundation recommends that infants 3 to 11 months years old get 14 to 15 hours. I have to laugh. How many of you have told an infant, you got to have 14 to 15 hours of sleep? That goes over, right? I had one that would not sleep. She would scream and cry until she passed out. She might have slept 10 hours. She did this for 6 months. I had her to 3 different pediatricians, and she's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. And by the end of that 6 months, I was the one with the problem. Not her. It was me. Toddlers, 1 to 3 years, you're still at their mercy, right? Maybe you can coax one to bed by the time they're 2 or 3, but keeping them down is an issue. But it's recommended they get 12 to 14 hours. Preschoolers, now we're getting to where we can have a little more control over that, 11 to 13 hours. School-age children, age 5 to 12 years, they recommend 9 to 11 hours. Adolescents, 8.5 to 9.25. They actually recommend that adolescents get more sleep than adults, and then even some of the younger children, because they're actually within a very high growth phase. All right, so what are the benefits of getting healthy sleep? Well, the American Association of Sleep Medicine shows you here that's quite a few benefits. That lowers your risk for serious health problems such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Their research has shown them that when we sleep well, it can help prevent and manage mental health problems. You get sick less often because it'll boost your immune system. You can improve brain health and help prevent Alzheimer's, and we're going to talk about these in a little more detail later. You can maximize the immunity when you get vaccinated. Maintain a healthy weight. It actually interferes with, if you don't get enough sleep, it can interfere with hormones that control appetite. Good sleep can help improve your mood, make you much more pleasant around people, and reflect Jesus much better, right? One of the reasons that it's important we get sleep, we want to reflect Jesus in our own behavior. Helps us make better decisions. right, so how much sleep is enough? Again, say 7 to 8 hours is what's recommended for adults. And what they have found, interestingly enough, is that too much can also be detrimental. We know that too little is, but even too much can be detrimental. And they did a survey. They actually did a meta-analysis studies where they took what they do with the meta-analysis is they take a large number of different research studies that have been done, and they find what is consistent among these, and they use their statistics in order to take what is consistent among these and determine what all of these studies put together can tell you. And one of the things they did, they've concluded here, if you can read the conclusion part on there, is that both short and long duration of sleep are significant predictors of death. So in this particular study, what they boiled it down to was just all-cause mortality. Whatever can cause the death, are you more likely to die sooner? Yes, if you get too little or even too much sleep. And they're talking about quite a bit of oversleeping in this particular case. So there are particular signs that you aren't getting enough healthy sleep. I'm sorry. All right, you fall asleep easily during TV shows, car rides, or other activities that you're undertaking before bedtime. Find it difficulty to focus and concentrate on things that you may do. Oversleep on weekends, particularly if you need to catch up from sleep you've lost over the week. You won't have as much energy for exercise or playing with your children, if you have them, or your grandchildren. You have trouble controlling your appetite or losing weight. You have less interest in intimacy. If you have a partner that you want to continue to be with, that's usually helpful. You have you feel a need to drink caffeine if you do that throughout the day, or to stay alert and stay energized. So you become dependent upon something other than what's inside you to keep you awake. All right, so something interesting here, sleep stages. This is something I've taken from a number of different websites to check to make sure that they're consistent. And what we do is, as we sleep throughout the night, we go through the sleep cycle 2 to 3, 4 times, depending upon how long your sleep cycle is and how much you sleep. And for most people, the sleep cycle is about 2 hours. So that you can look here and see it's divided into 30-minute quadrants here, kind of as a way to help think about it. So during the first stage, it says N1, non-REM, REM standing for rapid eye movement. During this particular phase, it's very light sleep. You're easily awakened. There's muscle activity still going on, and the eye movements slow down. Stage 2 is a little bit longer. So N1 you see is about maybe 10 minutes, N2 maybe about 30 minutes. The eye movements stop. You get slower brain waves with occasional burst of rapid brain waves. Stage 3, maybe about 20 minutes. It is non-REM again, N3, deepest sleep stage of all. You're difficult to be awakened. The brain waves, the heart rate, and the breathing slow down more, and the muscles relax. This is the stage where a lot of the body's self-healing takes place. It's very important to get to this stage. All right, many brain and body processes important for health and well-being occur here. Now, what is interesting, though, is the REM sleep is also a stage of sleep you want to get to. It's this rapid eye movement. Usually occurs about 90 minutes after you fall asleep. It's a very deep sleep. The eyes move rapidly with the eyelids closed. So if you've ever seen one, if you've got children especially, and you've gone in to check on them and watch them sleep, sometimes you see the little eyes moving under the lids. It's rapid eye movement sleep. The breathing is more rapid. It's irregular and it's shallow. The heart rate and the blood pressure can increase. The brain actually becomes more active during this phase. And this is where most of the dreaming occurs. The arms and leg muscles are actually paralyzed temporarily. Have you ever had a scary dream? I've had this happen to me. And it was horrifying. Somebody had come into my room. I was in high school. And something in my head, in my dream, somebody was in my room. Some man was in my room. In my dream, in my sleep, I was terrified. And I awoke, and I could not move. When I awoke, I was full intention of coming up out of that bed, and me or that man was going out in a body bag, one or the other. I was coming up, and we were going at it. But I could not move. It was the most terrifying experience if you've ever had that happen. All right, so dreams can happen during any stage of sleep, but REM is where the ones that are most vivid and the ones that you tend to remember the best. Descriptions of dream experiences in the NREM phases tend to be more abstract because you don't remember them. They're not as clear. All right, so the benefits of adequate and early sleep. Well, you've heard the old saying, sleep like a baby. I saw this picture, and that just looked like the most happy child sleeping. That's the way I want to sleep, right? Just cuddled up warm and with a big smile on my face. All right, one of the things that controls our sleep is the circadian rhythm. So this rhythm, it tells our body when to sleep and also when to wake up. And it can affect other body processes and be affected by other body processes. So it's like having a little clock inside, a little clock that God has put inside us that keeps us in tune with the 24-hour day He gave us when He made the world. So the pattern your body follows is based on this 24-hour day, this internal clock. And your body sets your circadian rhythm naturally, guided mainly by the brain. So sleep and hormones. All right, melatonin is a hormone that controls sleep. You're probably all familiar with that. It's actually available as a over-the-counter compound to help us sleep better. It's actually a hormone that's produced by the pineal gland. It is a precursor to good sleep. It's highest during the normal hours of sleep. It increases rapidly in the late evening as we get toward the dark part of the day. It peaks after midnight and decreases toward morning when it is time for us to become more wakeful and alert. There's also other hormones too called ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin plays a key role in regulating appetite. Its partial sleep deprivation is associated with decreased leptin levels. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you may feel more hungry because you've got more of the ghrelin. And also the lack of sleep suppresses leptin. Leptin is also a hormone that's produced by the brain. It is what is sometimes called the satiety hormone, that helps us to curb our appetite. So you can see that when we don't get enough sleep, we tend to have a situation where we want to eat more. So it can be difficult to control our weight. For children, growth hormone is extremely important, and they need to get enough sleep because growth hormone occurs at several stages in large pulses. It's produced by the brain, and it is pulsated into the body. And this occurs mainly at night when the child sleeps. So the largest and most predictable of these peaks occur about an hour after the onset of sleep. Okay, the National Sleep Foundation has put up a poll looking at a number of people and their sleep patterns, and what they found is a group of people, about 27% of the people they polled, actually are morning people. That's how they label themselves. They get up early, they get up ready to go all day long, and they go to bed early. They consider themselves morning people. They are the least likely to be affected by sleep problems. 75% say they usually get enough sleep, so they feel pretty good during the day, and generally these people are in good health. Most actually get a little more sleep than they need and rarely feel tired and are less likely to have medical conditions. This is in contrast to the people who they called sleepless and missing the kissin', about 59% of the folks who do not get enough sleep. Not only they don't get enough sleep, these are people who generally stay up late. They stay up late and they get up after they've had, just a few hours of sleep, because they still got to get up early, right? Most of the time, if you got to go to work. These folks usually feel tired and fatigued. Their intimate relationships are affected very often because they're not sleeping well. Their partner sleep disorders can sometimes cause problems in the relationship. I have a friend whose husband snores. She's been begging him for years to go somewhere to get some help for the sleeping because it keeps her awake. They started sleeping in separate bedrooms because she could not sleep. It was affecting her. They grew further and further apart and started having marital problems because this person would not be considerate of her need for sleep. So it's something you got to think about, other folks. There's early bird payoff. So what they found with these people when they go to bed early and get a good night's sleep is that they have a better immune system response. And they did a study with 3 different groups. They took a group of people, they let them sleep all night long, didn't bother them. Then they had a second group of folks who were sleeping all night long, except they deprived them of 2 hours of sleep. In the first group, they deprived them of sleep between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m., right before they got up. They experienced nearly a 30% drop in immune function, their body's immune response. It was measured by some type of cellular response to some reagent. I can't remember the name of it. Then they also took another group, and they deprived this group, of 2 hours of sleep, but they did this earlier in the night. They deprived them of 2 hours of sleep between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. And what they found was this group experienced a 50% drop in immune function, so that by missing the first part of their sleep earlier in the sleep cycle, they were affecting themselves more negatively. All right, so the early bird payoff in academics, what they did was they took a group of students and they divided them again, asked them, do you sleep long time? Do you go to bed early, or do you stay up half the night and get up still rather early? What they found is that the early bird folks had higher GPAs, higher scores on exams, higher grades, and higher academic performance overall. So what they're telling us, the Advent group, is that deep sleep is considered the restorative part of sleep, and that's the part necessary for feeling well-rested and energetic during the day. So folks, going to bed early, what is it, the old saying, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. It also makes them more alert during the day and more likely to be able to hear God and be a good reflection of Jesus. All right, so I told you we would talk about one of the things that sleep helps with the brain. This is the lymphatic system. This is actually a system that was discovered in 2012. A system in the brain that takes the toxins out of the brain, and it puts it in the lymphatic system where it can cycle through the lymph nodes where there are cells that will break down toxins and break down bad cells. This system, what they have found, works best at night. And I can give you this paper if you're interested in reading it. This is actually a review paper. It's not too terribly scientific. Those of you with the medical background will probably enjoy it. One of the things they found is that this system, if I want to find what the part I was really wanting to say, is constantly filtering toxins from the brain, but during wakefulness, this system is mainly disengaged. During natural sleep, levels of hormones, the one that keeps you active, declines, leading to an expansion of the brain's extracellular space, which results in decreased resistance to fluid flow. All of that to say that when you sleep, you've got better chance of getting rid of the toxins out of your brain. Alzheimer's disease is a chronic neurodegenerative disease and is the most common dementia, typically beginning with disorientation and proceeding to gradual deterioration of memory, language, and physical independence. One of the things it has been associated with is the buildup of certain types of toxins in the brain that can lead to tangling of the neurons. So sleep can protect you against brain issues, dementias, for example. All right, so if you're one of these night people and you're thinking, well, maybe I could try being a lively lark, a morning person, Advent group gives tips on how to shift your schedule. First off, they say start slowly. Don't try to do it all at once. It's not something that you're likely to be able to do. You do it slowly and be consistent. If one week you say, I'm going to go to bed 30 minutes earlier, I'm going to get up 30 minutes earlier, I'm going to start shifting it in that direction, do it all week, including Sabbath and Sunday. Be consistent even on weekends. And they talk about day tricks to get a good night's sleep. Get plenty of sunlight, plenty of fresh air, regular physical activity, especially in the morning. Folks, I get up 5 a.m. I practice what I preach. I go to John A. Logan Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I swim for an hour. Tuesday and Thursdays, I lift weights and do some cardio work. I'm trying to be an example. Folks, it does. It makes you feel better. I'm ready to go for my day. Eat a light supper also. Being too full can interfere with sleep. Maintain regular sleep-wake times whenever possible, even on the weekends, as much as possible. Resolve conflict before you go to bed. That's something that I think people were taught in high school. They talk about ways of getting along with people, and one of the things you do is you resolve conflict as quickly as you can, especially before you go to bed. Relax before bedtime. Set up a pattern of starting to wind down in the evening. Get rid of the too many stimulants. You don't want to try to go to bed watching some kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, probably with all kinds of car crashes and police chases, getting your epinephrine levels up kind of high. You may want to listen to some nice music that kind of calm things down. Get your sleep primarily at night. Go to bed early. They suggest taking a hot bath at least 1.5 to 2 hours before bed. Maintain a dark room. Maintain a quiet room. Make it cool. Sometimes it's easier to sleep. I think most of us know this when it's cool. Use the bed only for sleep. That is, you don't play games and jump around unless you're less than 5, right? Use the bed for sleep and intimacy. Circulate fresh air through the room. You might open a window if it's not too cool or too hot, or have a fan going. Have a comfortable bed and pillow. Rest. Not only energize your life with good sleep, you can energize yourself also with daily, weekly, and annual recreation, relaxation, and time with God. So they actually recommend also that every day you take some time out during the day to relax. Maybe during lunchtime you sit down, say a prayer, take a little booklet along that helps you do a little study of God, a couple of verses to read, some poems. Relax and do something different. Spend time in nature. Take a walk outside. Meditate on something positive, encouraging. Think of it as a daily vacation. They actually recommend that naps are good for folks, but they call it a power nap, right? It is get higher perceived alertness, modulates emotions, improves mood, increases performance. But they recommend that you keep it short, about 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes at max, and the prime hours to nap are between 2 to 4 p.m. if you can manage that. I usually get kind of sleepy after lunch, so mine might be a little earlier. I take 10 minutes and kind of shut my eyes if I can, if I have time. And they recommend, however, that you take this at least 5 hours before bedtime. Why? Obviously, what you don't want to do is interfere with your sleeping at night. Getting mental rest, so you take breaks during the day. Prayer, the 10 to 20-minute nap. Frequent mental breaks may be necessary if you need them, especially if you're having a particularly hectic day. Visit with someone if you can. I just walk down the hall occasionally and irritate my colleague. He keeps his door shut a lot more lately. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so one of the things you want to do is you want to examine how you're spending your time, right? You want to think about what you're doing. All right, and you want to identify and commit to what needs more of your time. Do I need more daily breaks? Do I need more time with God? Do I need to pray and ask for more sleep? Identify and follow through on what needs eliminating from your life. This cup of coffee at noon, it's interfering with me. If that's, or even tea can have a high amount of caffeine. Chocolate, colas can also have high amounts of caffeine. They suggest that you avoid multitasking and overcommitment, which I think is a thing that all of us tend to do nowadays. I think that's one of the things that Satan has put before us. We got to do this, we got to do that, we got to keep up with the Joneses, we got to do this because so-and-so needs that. I think a lot of us, and myself included, this is the preaching to the choir here. They tell us to focus on what we need to do and what would be God's plan for us to improve our life. All right, obtaining weekly and spiritual physical rest, right? The Sabbath, a 24-hour day of rest where we disengage from the world as it is outside our minds, outside our relationship with God. This is probably the biggest gift that God has given us, a day where we can say, I can rest because God has commanded it. That's what I can do. I know some people who say, oh, I can't do that today because it's the Sabbath. Our attitude should be, oh, I don't have to do that today because it's the Sabbath. And I say that, and I'm as guilty as anybody else, probably more. Get energized, it says, with an annual vacation. How many of you can actually say the word, much less do that? An annual vacation. And they talk about the benefits of doing so. Feel better and more productive. You get away from the old grind, even if it's a staycation. If you can't afford to really go somewhere, stay home, do some things locally. We have some really interesting things around here to do. Get together, Bible studies, take walks. I love to take walks out in nature. I'm a science freak, and it's just my love of God's creation that does it. Decrease the incidence of death from coronary causes, they find with studies. And they did some studies with gentlemen, and they found that those who do take an annual vacation were less likely to develop psychosomatic illnesses, that is, mental health problems. All right, so we're told in Psalms, the psalmist David tells us, it is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. And what they mean by rise up early is getting up too early after staying up too late, right? To sit up late. What they're telling us is that we need rest, right? Even the psalmist recognized the need, the human need for rest. So ask yourself, are you getting enough, number one, time with God? Enough sleep time, personal time. It's okay to take some time to yourself, folks. I know your children need you. I know your spouse needs you, your mother, your father. They need you. They need your help. They need your input, and you need them. But in order for you to help them to be at your best, to reflect Jesus the best, you've got to take care of yourself. That's how we can best deal with life's problems, is to have time with God and to ask him to help us take care of ourselves. Ask yourself, do you get enough time with God, enough sleep time, enough personal time, enough family time, even vacation time? It's not a sin, although I'm as guilty as the next. Benefits: improves judgment, decreases the blood pressure, the pulse, decreases stress hormones and flowing through our blood, increases feelings of happiness, improves concentration and energy levels, decreases anxiety, irritability, and feelings of depression and hopelessness. We can choose to make rest a priority in our life, and we can ask God to help us to do so. It is okay, people, to rest. It is okay to take care of yourself. It is okay to take some time for you. Take time for you. And when you do that, take that time with God. Reflect on Jesus, Lord. Help us all. All right, so a person whose mind is quiet and satisfied in God, we're told by Ellen G. White, is in the pathway to heaven. So live your life to the fullest, the Advent health people tell us. Make a choice, and one of the things you can choose is to get plenty of rest. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.